Hi there, this is Professor Juris, and I wanted to make you a video about ortholithofilm and creating ortholitho positives and ortholitho negatives and how to do it and have fun. So here we go. Hi there, this is Professor Juris, and I just wanted to give you a quick look at the ortholithofilm in regular daylight so that you would be able to see what you're going to have to look for once you go into the darkroom under the safe lights. Now, using the Ortholitho film does call for a dark red safe light or a very dim black and white safe light. We actually, when we use this at school, we dim the safe lights down quite a bit so it's fairly dark, and that will help prevent the film from fogging. Now, that's really important that you understand that. And what I mean by fogging is you can actually expose this under the safe lights that we're using if you leave it out too long. So you wouldn't want to pull this out of your package and leave it sit. You want to go ahead and you don't want to dilly-dally. You want to go ahead and expose it, develop it, and get it fixed right after you take it out of the package, and you shouldn't have any problems. I've done tests with it with our negative or our safe lights dimmed down, and I don't get any fog at all. But if you leave it set a couple of minutes under the safe lights, it will fog it. So, or if you have a dark room at home, you can use it under red safe lights. So the important thing here that I need to show you is there's actually two sides to this film. There's an emulsion side and the base side, like there's in every film. So the emulsion side is the lighter side. That's the side you want to expose. So this would be the side that goes down in the easel, and preferably goes down on an easel that's either spray painted black, flat black, or using a piece of black construction paper underneath this. Because what will happen is light will actually go through this film, hit the easel, and reflect back up. So that will give you fogging. Same goes if you actually put this in the wrong way. You will still get an image, but it'll be a fuzzy, unsharp, flat image, like really muddled. So you want to make sure that you're using it the correct way. So some students have used it this way with the emulsion down, and they go, well, I still got an image, so it must be right. But yeah, you'll get some type of image, but it's not quality image. So you need to make sure that you're putting the emulsion up. And this is hard to see under the safe lights. What you have to do is bend the corner like that. And it looks pretty easy. I mean, it looks pretty visible in here. You can tell the difference, but it is much more difficult in the safe light. But the way to do it is you bend the corner, and then you can see which side is lighter and which side is darker. And then so the lighter side will go up. And again, remember, you put a piece of black construction paper the same size underneath this so you will not get light coming back up and fogging it. And then you would expose on this side, and you could do a regular test strip if you want with it, using your gray card and moving across the thing, giving it 10, 10, 10, 10, or 2, 2, 2, 2, whatever you decide to do it at. Now, this does come in a lot of different sizes. I recommend you start with this 8x10 size, but as you see in the other video, Okay, I wanted to jump in and just show you where I get my Ortholitho film from. Um, I use the Arista Ortholitho film, and I get it from Freestyle Sales Company. They're out in California. I think that, yeah, their thing is in Santa Fe now where they're shipping it from. So, but you can just get on their website. See if I can pull this down to show you. There's their website, freestylephoto.biz. And actually, if you type that number in right there, it'll probably come up. But you could just search for the Arista Ortholitho film and purchase the right film. Now, we also have this available in the bookstore, and I believe the bookstore was getting theirs from Photo Warehouse. If you saw that label in the other picture from the pack that I had from the bookstore, and it's probably the same Ortholitho film. There's not that many companies making it. I believe this is actually probably made from Ilford. Now, when you're using the Ortholitho film, I wanted to talk a minute about developing it. We develop it at Sinclair using the Kodak Dectol paper developer, and we either are diluting that for paper at 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, depending upon its Firebase or RC. I usually dilute it 2 to 1 for fiber base and 3 to 1 for RC. But with the ortholithofilm, what you actually want to do is you want to dilute it more. So I would go anywhere from 4 to 1 or 6 to 1, and 6 to 1 seems to give you a more um, continuous tone that does work better if you're going to use this in alternative processes. Now, it won't be the highest contrast that's possible with the film. If you really wanted to get the highest contrast that's possible with the film, you need to use actual litho developer. And here's the litho developer right here that you could get from Freestyle. And we do not supply this in the darkroom, but you're certainly welcome to get some of this if you wanted to mix them up to see just how high contrast your ortholithos can become. Now make sure with anything that you purchase and bring into the darkroom that you do bring in, if you look at this downloads right here, you can download the material safety data sheets. PDF downloads right there, so you can get the material safety data sheets so that you know what you have, and you're required to have these with you if you do bring something into the darkroom in case somebody you know, gets exposed to it or something, so that we can see what's actually in it. And it's good to have that on hand anyway in your darkroom. So I recommend you always downloading the material safety data sheets anytime you buy any darkroom stuff. Now you want to make sure you have your notebook handy right now. With the Ortholithofilm, it's going to develop a little bit different than paper. It's going to be more like film. You want to develop it a little bit longer, especially if you're developing it in the Dectol. I would probably go with the time around 4 minutes with constant agitation in the over diluted Dectol developer. And so about 4 minutes in the developer, then you want your 1 minute stop bath. And now in the fixer is very important that it's fresh fixer, because it is a sheet of film. You're actually working with a 8x10, 8x12 sheet of film, and you want to fix it until it's totally clear and then double the time. So if you would actually turn the room lights on when you were developing this or fixing this, you would see it has like a white scum that's all over the whole sheet of film. It's just like basically a negative if you would open up your film in the tank during fixing time. So you want to make sure that all clears off. And the way you determine fixing time is the time that it takes for the white scum to disappear off of the film base. Then you actually double that time. But I'm going to say it's going to be around 5 to 6 minutes total time. So if you fix it for 6 minutes, you'll be good to go. And then after the 6 minutes, again, you want to treat this like film. So what you're going to have to do is rinse it off, give it a quick rinse, maybe a minute in water, and then put it into a tray of hypo-clearing agent for 2 minutes. And then after the 2 minutes in the hypo-clearing agent, I would recommend washing it about 7 minutes, and then photo flowing it and hanging it to dry in the drying cabinet, because it will be like an 8x10 negative at that point. So hopefully that'll clear up that part of it. And now let's look at actually making one. Okay, now we're going to talk about producing your first ortholitho. So to start with, we're going to use a negative inside the enlarger. And we're going to set our enlarger up just like we were going to make a print. One thing I didn't put in here that I need to put in here is a piece of black paper. So underneath the Ortholithofilm and its emulsion up, you want to make sure you have a piece of black paper underneath the film so that it doesn't reflect light off the easel back up onto the film and cause fogging. So that's important. But when you set your easel up, you should put a piece of white paper in there and actually focus on it and everything, so that you have the right height of the paper, and it's going to be a little bit closer to the lens, but that shouldn't be a problem because of the piece of black construction paper you'll put in there after. So you put a piece of black construction paper on top of the easel, put down your piece of ortholitho film, have your enlarger all focused and everything, do a test strip, develop it, stop it, fix it, evaluate that, and and then go ahead and make one at the time that you've chosen. And again, remember, you're looking at it with transmitted light, not reflected light. Um, and I think I talk about that at the end of this video. So with the video I have coming up, but so once you have your first ortholitho positive made, and down here, this will create an OLP, an ortholitho positive. It's going to be a positive image picture, and again, you're going to like look at it on a light table so that you can see the light transmitted through it. And the density you're looking for is just like if you were making a print. You don't want it to be too light or too dark. You want it to look like a print when you lay it on the light table. So if it's too light, you need to add more time. If it's too dark, you need to take time away. And that will create your ortholitho positive. So what I've done right here is I've actually taken my ortholitho positive and I did lay it down on the light table, and that's what these yellow things are. That's actually the fluorescent tubes that are in my light table shining through the ortholitho positive. But as I look at this, I say, is it light? Is it too dark? And it looks good to me, so this will be the one that I take to create my ortholitho negative. So this is what you're looking to get, a print that looks pretty much like a print, although you can see it's getting more high contrast. And I'll show you this in combination with the normal print so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, so once you have the correctly made ortholitho positive, you're going to create an ortholitho negative. So in order to create an ortholitho negative, you want to have your enlarger set up again, very similar to like if you're making a contact sheet or making a photogram. You have the negative carrier in the enlarger with no negative in it. You have the light focus, so you have a nice thing of light. And now you're going to get rid of the easel. You don't want to use the easel for this. If you use the easel, it's going to come out of focus. So you only use the easel when you're making the ortholitho positive. So what I'm going to do now is I would have my piece of glass. I would have my ortholitho positive. I'd have my piece of ortholithofilm. And then I would have a piece of black paper underneath the ortholithofilm. I don't have that pictured here, so make sure you remember that. And then the enlarger baseboard. Now, if your baseboard was painted black or your easel's painted black, then you don't need the piece of black paper, but most of the easels are yellow in there, and I think the baseboards are white, so you want to make sure you put a piece of black construction paper down underneath it. And what you're going to do then is do another test. Set your enlarger at 5 or 10 seconds and do a step wedge test across it until you find out what the right time is. And this is going to produce, you're going to go from your ortholitho positive onto the piece of ortholithofilm, and it's going to create an ortholitho negative. And again, you're going to wash this and then dry it and then look at it on the light table to evaluate the time, because you have to look at it with transmitted light. And if it looks good, then you're going to use that to create a print. And here's just another quick look at that, where we have the ortholitho negative that we're now going to transfer onto paper. So in this step, we have our enlarger again all set up like if we were going to make a contact sheet. We have our piece of glass, we have our ortholitho negative, and we have a piece of photographic paper on top of the baseboard. Now you don't need black construction paper under the photo paper, but it is very important that you have a good piece of glass. Now you don't just want a piece of picture frame glass. You want a piece of glass like you use for making your contact sheet that's about 1/4 inch thick and heavy, and then make sure the glass is really clean. And when you set that down, that'll press your ortholitho negative in tight contact with your piece of photographic paper. You also want to make sure there's nothing on the baseboard that's gonna mark your paper or something from underneath. Make sure it's all wiped off, and then lay your photo paper down. I use blue tape on the enlarger baseboard so I know where to line up the paper at. I put my piece of photographic paper there. I put my ortholitho negative over the top, put my piece of glass, and then do another step wedge test to find the right time. And what you will create is something just like this, a high contrast ortholitho positive print. Now, what I have in this example right here is I have a normal print on the right hand side that was made just with my negative being projected down on photographic paper, and on the left hand side I have a print made with Ortholithofilm. So you can see the difference of it. This is much high contrast. It, it, it Which effect you like is up to you, but I'm just showing you how you actually make a high contrast print then in the darkroom. So notice the difference. You lose a lot of detail. It's a lot starker, and again, it depends on the mood that you're trying to portray. And then here's just a normal print that was made in the darkroom, projecting the negative on paper, and this was made with the Ortholitho negative on top of the paper. And in this example, what I've done is I've actually made, this is the one I made, but I made one a little bit lighter, giving it less time under the enlarger. And so this would be an example of if if you wanted it to be blown out like this, but if you made one like this, I would say it needs more time. So this one over here on the left is the one that I think looks correct. So again, you're going to wager this when you start to make these prints. If you print it and it's too light, you need to go more time. And this is just too blown out, so we want to come to this. This is what we're looking for, a nice print that's high contrast but still has the detail in the areas. It's not all blown out like it is here. Now, if you do make some that are like this, you'd still want to go ahead and wash them and fix them and everything and save these, because I'm going to show you some other things, other manipulations you can do to these prints that is kind of cool. And this illustration shows all three of the prints side by side. Starting on the right hand side is the Ortholitho negative that I believe when I did this one, I exposed it for about 15 seconds under the enlarger, and then this one here was 30 seconds, so I doubled the time. And then this on the total left hand side, this print over here is just a regular print made with the negative in the enlarger. So you can see the difference in all three. And again, we're shooting for, with the Ortholitho film, we're shooting for a print that looks very similar to this. So here's the same thing, just so you can have reference to it. So this is one of the other things that you can do with your Ortholitho prints once you have them, if you have some that are too light. If you go down to the grocery store and you go to the laundry detergent aisle, they usually sell RIT dye. And it's dye that you use to like dye your t-shirts and so forth. What you want to do is get a tray of water and put some of the RIT dye in there, and then soak your print in the dye, and you can create different things like this. And you can just use about any different color that you want. Usually I soak these about 30 minutes or so and then rinse them in cold water. And you need to dump the dye down the toilet or something when you're done. You don't want to dump it in your sink, especially if you have like a porcelain sink, because it'll actually stain your sink too. So this is really messy, but I think it's worth the effect that you get. Now, another thing you could use is you could actually use some food coloring if you're using fiber-based paper. If you use food coloring, and you could mix it with a little bit of alcohol, and you could simply dye little portions of the print too by wiping it on with like a Q-tip or something, or you could mix them up in a tray and stick the print in that too. But for the best results, I think the RIT material dye is what works the best on making these. Hi there, Professor Jurison. I just wanted to give you a quick look at actual Ortholitho film that's been processed and everything. So this is a Ortholitho positive, and it's like a positive image. Now, when you're looking at these and when you're evaluating these for the density, it's a good idea to put a piece of white paper or something behind it, or look at a wall, but you can see the light, because what you're doing is you're viewing it with light being transmitted through it. So you could take a look at it up at a light, and that's the way you'll determine the exposure time that goes into making one of these. So you don't want it to be too light or too dark. You want it to actually look like a print, like the print you were going to make in the darkroom. But the difference is that This is with transmitted light rather than reflected light. When you're looking at a print, you're looking at it with reflected light. So this is the first one you would make. You would start with the negative and the enlarger, and this is going to give you the Ortholitho positive. Now, then what I would do is take this and contact print this with on top of another piece of Ortholithofilm, and the other piece of Ortholithofilm will give you the Ortholitho negative, which I have right here. So then this would be your Ortholitho negative, and again, it's the same evaluation process. You know, you're going to look at this up at a light and see the light going through it, and then determine if it needs to go lighter or darker. And it works the same way as paper. If it's too light, you give it more time. If it's too dark, you give it less time, and that will make your Ortholitho. And then once I have this Ortholitho negative, then I would contact print this on top of a sheet of photographic paper. And I could do a test wedge strip like I do normally for a print and find out the correct time I wanted to make it at, and then go ahead and print it at that. So I just wanted to show you these so you had a quick look at what these actually look like. The other parts in the video show these on a light table, but they look better to see them actually in person, so or live. There you go. Hope that helps. Thanks. So if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I hope this helps you create ortholithofilms. Thank you.